Here's why being uncomfortable is the best sign that you're growing. Most people think like discomfort is a bad thing. And in most cases, it's not. It's actually one of the clearest signals that you're growing. Think about it. The first time you've ever boarded a plane, you have that uncomfortable feeling. You're like, oh man, I can't believe I'm doing this. If you've ever joined a Zoom meeting or had an interview or anything like that, you feel super uncomfortable when you're going into something like that. The first time you asked a person out, how uncomfortable did you feel when you were doing that? And that's what I'm saying. None of those particular moments meant that you were doing something wrong. It just meant you were doing something new. Discomfort is what happens when your current identity is being like stretched. What it is it's actually your brain like kind of catching up to a bigger version of you. You know, every time you feel that like nervous, awkward, unfamiliar feeling, like it rises up in your chest, if that makes any sense. Try not to interpret that in those moments as anxiety and look at it as growth. Like that's growth knocking on the door, man. And really the problem is that in like good cases, right? I'm not talking about doing bad things that make you uncomfortable. I'm talking about doing good things that make you uncomfortable. In most cases, people run from that feeling. They retreat back to what's familiar, what's comfortable, back to their routine, things like that. And again, that's why nothing changes. That's also why paths that force communication, responsibility, and real world interaction tend to accelerate that growth the fastest. And remote high ticket sales does exactly that. Not because it's easy, but because it puts you in situations where you're forced to level up, where you have to level up, talking to new people every single day, having real live conversations, thinking on your feet, you know, being in that situation and having to come up with responses and things like that. Being a leader, right? Leading these conversations, leading discussions, being a salesperson. When you're learning new things in life, you don't start by being perfect at them. You start by being uncomfortable. And that's why, like, for beginners, at least in this industry, roles like appointment setting are just such a powerful entry point, because it's not exactly the most complicated work on planet Earth, but you're still getting those reps in, you're still building that rapport, you're building your own confidence, and you're learning how to properly communicate with people without being like thrown in the deep end. And over time, that same discomfort, it turns into confidence. Then it turns into freedom, and then it turns into optionality. You know, being able to decide how much income you make, where you work from, what your schedule looks like, things like that. So if you're feeling uncomfortable right now, being in a situation, of course, that is good, obviously, don't run from that. Pay attention to those feelings and embrace them, because comfort is just going to keep you the same. It's going to keep you in the exact same position moving forward. Discomfort, on the other hand, is what's going to build the next version of you.